A very good afternoon to you, our cherished and discerning listeners. It's another beautiful and blessed Wednesday, and we here at Joy Business are happy to bring you another exciting edition of your favorite business development program on radio, Masterclass. Masterclass is powered by Joy Business and brought to us by Goyle. Goyle, they say good energy. Goyle, Yenara, Yedia. Masterclass is also brought to us by GCB. GCB, your bank for life. My name, as always, is Yaw Anim Barnafo, and I'm happy to bring you today's edition of Masterclass. In the last couple of weeks here on Masterclass, we've sort of gone back to the classroom, if you like, Business 101. And here on the show, we've been talking about how to build a credible business plan. Yaw Anim of Deloitte Ghana was with us a week before last, telling us of how to build a credible business plan and gave us those 10 pointers of looking at your governance, your strategy, your financial plan, your corporate governance strategy, and all of those things. And last week, he spent time here in the show also talking about finding financing options, if you like, for how to find money to fund your business. Oftentimes, we hear businesses complain about, I don't know where to find funding, I don't know how to become investor ready, I'm just building the business for me. But things are changing all over the world where businesses are concerned. How do you posture yourself in a way that makes you viable for someone to want to put money in your business? Here on the show, Yaw Anim spend time to share those thoughts with us. Good afternoon to you, Yaw, if you're listening to us. And in that conversation, he talked about what some of the challenges were in finding financing. He touched on high interest rates. He also talked about insufficient collateral in some cases. And he also talked about, should I say, not having enough business angels, people who would just help and pick up young businesses and support them to grow. And then, of course, he also talked about where to find funding. In that conversation, he talked about banks, crowdfunding, government schemes, and many more. Today, we want to go into a rather interesting area of conversation, still in that same light. Yes, we're going to be talking today about tax compliance issues for SMEs. Oftentimes, you hear people complain and say, yeah, it's difficult to do business in Ghana. I can't pay my taxes. I didn't file on time. It's just they're taxing us too much. They're taxing this, they're taxing that. I mean, today, I'm sure when we get interactive, we'll ask for some of the names of the various taxes that we have, if you know, just so that we educate ourselves. Because like we always say, life is too short to make all the mistakes yourself. We have another wonderful gentleman here from Deloitte Ghana who will be spending time with us, talking to us about how to handle or even to know or to identify what the tax obligations are for an SME and how to comply with those obligations. Because if you want to do business in Ghana, then you have to comply. Let's do the things right. And people have done them right. We talked here on the show about Ghanaians who are doing things right and who are making it. So you can also be an example. My guest for this afternoon is a senior manager at Deloitte. He's built a career in the last 11 years or more in the area of tax. Started his career in 2012 through KPMG and is now with Deloitte Ghana. He's worked on various, should I say, tax assignments. He's a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana and is also a member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation Ghana. He's very well versed in his field of endeavor. I was having a quick chat with him before we started, and you will understand why I will say that he's the best person to talk to us about tax today. My guest for this afternoon is Mr. Gilbert Yirenkyi Addo. Gilbert, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I wish I could do a drum roll for you.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes.
And I bring you special greetings from my boss, the person of George Ankoma,
Right.
Gloria Boydoku, and then Gideon Ayi Ou,
Right.
as well as my senior manager, Wisdom Panu.
Okay. All of Deloitte, right?
All of Deloitte. I mean,
Okay.
these are wonderful personalities who has given us the opportunity.
Okay. I hope the whole of Deloitte is listening as well.
Yes,
and
I
KPMG,
know.
you told them to listen as well.
Even my village people are listening.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm sure
Yes.
that my listeners are going to be to benefit at the end of today's conversation,
Exactly.
because we're going to be going into tax, breaking it down, letting people understand what exactly are the obligations for a company. Some people know this, others don't.
Yeah.
Some have tried to do it themselves, but like we've always said here on the show, you can't be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Somebody drew my attention and said that particular thing I keep saying. You said, but certainly better than a master of one. That is the end of that thing we talk about, jack of all trades. But the point I'm trying to make is that raise your hand, shout if you need help. People are prepared to offer these services to you, especially as a new business. You don't need to hire a financial accountant. You don't need to hire an auditor. You don't need to hire a tax person. You can get people to do this for you on consultancy basis. and then the end product is still as good.
Exactly.
It's still as good, and
Exactly.
then you don't breach any laws.
Exactly.
Introduce us, if you will, into the conversation of tax obligations. I mean, for an SME, for a business which has started, which is trying to become, a strong business in Ghana, and then sort of ease us gently into what the obligations are and the compliance conversations that sort of surround it. Just to also remind our listeners that this is Masterclass here on Superstation Joy 99.7. We're streaming live on Facebook, and we've got a couple of slides also, which we'll be showing on Facebook for those who like to take notes. So by all means, do follow us on Facebook and pick those questions. At some point, we will get interactive and you can ask your questions or send your comments. But until then, we'll take the information on tax compliance for SMEs from Gilbert. Gilbert, talk to us.
Thank you very much. I think that the focal point for this discussion is to throw a high-level light on some of the regulatory issues that, as an SME, you must avert your mind to, and then we move straight into three cardinal principles when it comes to taxation. I always say that it's very golden, but we don't pay particular attention to it. And what are these three things? Your filing requirement, your reporting requirement, and your payment requirement. These are very basic for an SME or any company to ensure that you comply by the rules of the game. And surprisingly, non-compliance to any of these three cardinal principles will lead to you having to pay penal charges to the Revenue Authority. Okay, so what are the two types of taxes that we have generally? We have direct taxes and then indirect taxes. So what are direct taxes? Normally we say direct taxes are taxes that are paid by the person who earned the income. So literally, you say direct taxes. So I earn income as an employee of Deloitte, and that income I would have to pay a portion to the Revenue Authority or to government for the social good of the country. As a company, you also earn income through your activities. It could be the provision of service or the sale of goods. And whichever income that you earn thereon, you would have to then pay a portion to the government for social development. Now, we now focus on what we call indirect taxes. And I'm making it very simple because the word should speak for itself. Indirect taxes. Indirect taxes principally hinges on consumption. So having earned my income and having paid taxes on same, when I decide to consume, I have some taxes that I would have to pay by virtue of what? Consumption. A typical example is what we call value-added tax. So if I provide a service for you and then I invoice you, definitely the law requires that I charge VAT because it's constituted as what? A taxable activity. So for indirect taxes, it hinges on what? Consumption. Once you consume, you then have to pay the tax. Ironically, you cannot say you are earning income and not spend. So you cannot escape from that unless you say that, okay, this income that I've earned, I'll dig a hole and put it there. But that will not be the case. You'd have to spend, and once you spend, you then have to then pay the taxes. Now, these two streams of taxes hinges on some laws. I always say that taxation is an act of law, but I don't want to dovetail into law. I want to make it very basic. But then you need to have knowledge of some of these things. And Yaw did reiterate that fact in his presentation the other time, that you need to have knowledge about what pertains in the industry that you are working. And tax is also part of it. So when it comes to income taxation, we have the Income Tax Act. That governs income taxation in Ghana. And then we have what we call the VAT Act that also governs, indirect taxes in Ghana with respect to VAT. There are other forms of indirect taxes, but for the purposes for our discussion, we will narrow down on these two. Now, every tax has some form of regulations. What does the regulation seek to do? It provides additional insight or clarity to some of the issues in the principal or the mother act. So you may be an SME person, and you may be operating, at least it's English. Once you decide to read and you are faced with some challenges, you go a step further. Read the regulation. It will give some guidelines. And the laws also come with some practice note. They are administrative guidelines from the Commissioner General to give further clarity on how to manage your taxes. So they are all on the GRA website. You can get access to that and then read around it. And when you have challenges, then the consultant will come in to give you a practical feel of what you're doing. We also have what we call decided cases. And what are these decided cases? Because tax is an act of law, the Commissioner General is not a final arbiter. So if there's a tax audit and I'm not okay with the Commissioner General's position, I have the right to object. If I object and I'm still not content with the Commissioner General's position, they have what we call they have an ADR unit that will also try to settle the issue. And if I'm still not content, then we head to the court. And whatever will emanate from the court is also law. It gives guidance on how certain provisions would have to be administered. So it's very important that, once you operate in that space, the presumption is that, I'm a small company. Small companies, big companies started small. No big company just, got up to be big. They started from somewhere, and having knowledge of some of these things is very, very important. Okay. Now, who are the persons that should pay taxes in Ghana? Who are the persons? You have what we call resident persons and non-resident person. Now, why do we say resident persons? Taxation is jurisdictional in nature. So, whatever activity that you have undertaken in the jurisdiction of Ghana is subject to tax to the extent that you've earned income. So, as I sit here, if I go and partake in an activity in UK, because Ghana, we now operate on the worldwide taxation model, that income would be roped in for it to be assessed for tax purposes. But you have the right to take credit for same in respect of the taxes you've paid in that particular country. And we also have non-resident persons. They may not necessarily be in Ghana, but they may have undertaking an activity in Ghana that have given rise to the generation of income. So we call something the nexus. There should be that connection between the activity and the income earned. So for the non-resident person, that party may be in UK, may be in Uzbekistan, but the activity thereon took place in Ghana. You get it? So once the source is in Ghana, the taxing right is also triggered. And for resident person, there are people who are within this country who are doing their business in Ghana. Hence, whatever income they earn will be subject to tax. Now, when we say resident person, it connotes both an entity and an individual. So when the law really wants to be very specific, it will talk about an individual. And then it will also talk about an entity. But where the rules thereon is applicable to both parties, you will see that it will say a person. That is how the rules of the game are. I don't intend to go into law, but forgive me, sometimes I may find myself there. Now,
no, it's important.
Yes.
The issue of taxation, like you said, is situate or backed in our laws.
Great.
And that's where we get the authority from to even implement it. So it's important to at least to create the context.
Great.
Yeah, so
okay. So once I'm permitted, so it's all. So as I was saying, now having identified this group of persons, I have indicated that you engage in some form of activity. There is this other two principles that you'd have to have in mind. I earlier on stated three principles that I said they are golden to tax planning. For me, it's one of the most efficient tax planning measure for any organization. Other than maybe the complex transactions that you may want. But these are very basic. Non-compliance to it will lead you to pay penal charges. So the other thing is what we call the charging provisions and the machinery provisions. Now, you see, when you are preparing a normal financial statement, and Yaw did retrieve that fact, you have your income and how did you earn that income. If you don't incur cost, you don't earn income. So there should be that correlation for us to then determine what the net position thereon is. So the law also mirrors a similar provision. It is cognizant of the fact that if you do not engage in any economic activity, you will not earn income. Hence the machinery provision. that guides you on how to what? Do the calculation to determine the chargeable income tax position. And that is where the charging provisions are triggered. The charging provisions is principally the rate to apply on the chargeable income. So literally you see that we say, oh, income tax, corporate income tax is 25%. That is a charging provision. That gives that power for you to charge taxes on that particular income. Without that, you don't have any locus to even charge. So if you pick our Income Tax Act, you realize that all Section 1 talks about what? Imposition of the tax. If you pick the VAT Act, you see it there. If you pick the Communication Service, you see it there. If you pick you see it there. And those are what? The charging provisions. That gives the power for the taxes to be imposed. And then the machinery provision guides you on how to what? Calculate what? The tax. Okay. So
and this information is important
very,
for a
very
business owner
good
to know,
good,
or at least be educated of.
Exactly.
Which is why we were saying earlier on the show that if it's all too much for you, get a consultant.
Exactly. See,
get a consultant.
The price tag in not getting a consultant is serious.
Because ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Exactly. So there are instances whereby GRA goes to do an audit and then they inquire, okay, fine, give us the underlying transaction supporting this particular caption. And most SMEs are not able to provide it because they will tell the accountant, oh, you do it anyhow, you know. And surprisingly, when they do the P&L, you know, tax is imposed on the profit before tax. So you state your income, what your gross income, and then your expenses. Then you arrive at what? The net position. Most SMEs will say, okay, fine, or some accountants will say that, okay, fine, let's apply 25% on the profit before tax to determine the income tax expense. That is not the income tax expense. And even when you look at IAS 12, IAS 12 does not give credence to that if you want to go by the accounting standards. IAS 12 will tell you that to determine the tax position, you need to look at what? The current tax, which comes as a result of a statute. So the IAS is giving credence to what? The laws that pertain to taxation. And then you now look at what? Your movement in deferred tax. But that is not something we have to discuss now. Great. So the law also, I mean, is modeled around that particular thing. So what we call chargeable income is basically your accessible income from different sources. What are the different sources? It could be income from employment, income from business, or investment. And I like the way the law has couched. They say that what? Income from employment, business, or investment, meaning that I can earn my employment income and decide to invest. I can earn my business income and decide to what? Invest. So you have your core activity that gives you what? Income. And it could be by buying and selling or provision of service. And then you have your normal employment income. Now, investment income are principally what? Passive incomes. They are income that are working for you. So if I decide to use a portion of my income to buy T-bills, I'm not necessarily into the business of doing T-bill activities. So that's why we say passive income. It's not my active income. My active income is what I do for Deloitte on a daily basis. At the end of the month, they pay me.
But will that income on the investment still be liable for tax?
Yes, we'll get there. We'll get there. Yes. So, in assessing income for tax purpose, we look at all these streams of income. Let's not forget that the turning around of the investment in itself is an activity.
All the sources of income, both declared and undeclared.
Oh, both
the Galamsey.
I'm saying that because, you see, I always say that in Ghana, surprisingly, everything is driven by environment. So sometimes because of the environment we find ourselves, we doubt, okay, can this thing really happen? But in a well-crafted, regulated economy, no income goes on unnoticed.
True.
I mean, those who have traveled at length and have worked in other jurisdictions, you can attest to that. No income because, but in Ghana, you can do your pa and then nobody.
So there's a lot of income that's coming in under the radar.
Yes,
and
they will
it's
get
not
the
getting taxed.
Yes, I mean, informally. So that's why the informal sector is a whole issue for the Revenue Authority. I mean, having a firm grip of what pertains in the informal sector is a whole issue for the Revenue Authority.
Right.
Okay, so like I did indicate, the chargeable income is basically your income from employment, business, or investment, less the total amount of deduction allowed. So I find it a bit challenging when people say that the tax law is unfair. Less deductions allowed. So it gives credence to the fact that incomes are not earned in isolation. If you don't incur cost. So I'll only concentrate on expenses or cost that are actively connected with the generation of the income. Now, a lot of SMEs, a lot of them, they then try to rope in other non-business incomes.
From other sources.
Other non-business expenses. That's what I wanted to say. Other non-business expenses.
Personal expenditure.
Personal expenditure. They rope all of them in. But the basic thing they all have to have in mind is that the expenses that you have incurred should necessarily be geared towards the generation of the income. So if you go and pay your child's school fees, I don't think that your child is the one generating the income for you. So that's why the law has, in a way, ring-fenced. This is saying that total amount of deductions allowed. So there are conditions in the law that, permits or allows how these expenses are to be assessed. And we call it the when rule. And when you come to Deloitte, that's how we call it, the when rule. Wholly, exclusively, and necessarily. That means without these expenses, the business cannot run.
So things like your overheads,
exactly,
things like your cost of raw materials,
things
like
good, all
your
these
rentals,
things,
your
salaries, all these things, and there should be documentation to that effect.
So if we see dog food and pampers,
so if the dog is your security.
Okay, so best practice. We're learning here. As a business owner, don't put all your personal expenditure.
No, these personal expenditures and that is the challenge in the SME sector. Although they are shrouded in a lot of financing challenges, no investor would want to invest in a company that does not have appropriate structures in place in terms of documentation, having invoices and all. And that's the crux of our discussion today. Yes. The rules of the game, and I would say the Revenue Administration Act, enshrines all taxpayers to maintain documentation, maintain records. It's not it's a non-negotiable thing. You are required to keep them. Why are you required to keep them? You file a return with the Revenue Authority, and then when you file the return with the Revenue Authority, they will have to then come and do what? Audit.
Based on the data you have submitted.
Based on the data. So, and the return that you are filing with them is just a summary of whatever has
really gone on. Yeah.
Exactly. So they need to come and check the underlying data to even assess whether what you filed with the Revenue Authority is what it is. Yeah. In normal financial statement audit, we have what we call audit assertions. The assertion for revenue audit is what? Completeness and accuracy. Period. Completeness and accuracy. So these things will be tested based on the information that you have provided with the Revenue Authority. Now, let's go to registration. When you start your business, you go and do register with the RGD. Now, the RGD, what they would help you to do now is to get what? A tax identification number.
Is that what we call the TIN?
The TIN. But then you need to operate or deal with a tax office. There isn't that synchronization yet, ordinarily. So if you operate around here, like Joy FM, the nearest tax office is what? The LTU. And we have the Adabraka taxpayer office. So, I mean, this is within your domain where you can transact your tax operations. If you need tax clearance certificates, that's where you can go to. So after that registration, you need to then go to that office to then do another leg of the registration, and we call it just opening a tax file for you, so that you can be identified. A lot of SMEs, after the registration at the RGD and they get their thing, that's it.
They don't follow up again.
Oh no. They end there. They think that okay, that's done. Then later you need TCC. What TCC is tax clearance certificate, and then then you walk into any tax office. You open yourself up to so many things.
You know, off air before we came in, we're talking about the fact that there are certain areas of our business process in society where people shy away from because it appears and comes across as being difficult. So insurance is one of those areas. People don't want to talk about insurance because they don't know much about it, and they think, based on stereotype, I don't want to know. Shipping is one of those things. You know, isn't it possible? Tax is also one of those things. Well, my question, and you don't have to answer that now. You can just hold on to that when we get to the question session. Shouldn't the civil society organizations like the Institute of Tax, Chartered Tax, professionals, be looking at making interventions to help people? I know they're already doing things like they're educating people, but people don't want to talk about it because, number one, it takes from them. Number two, it's too cumbersome. And they don't know about it. And what people don't know, most of the time, they're afraid of. I know that the government is doing a lot of education and there's a lot of... But what are some of those groups like your professional groupings also doing to help people? Because if I know I can pay a consultant to run my taxes and I will be clean and I won't have a problem with authorities, a lot of the business women in Makola and other places, they will do it. We pay people to do a lot of things for us, to clean our homes, to cart our goods, to warehouse our product. Why won't I pay a tax consultant to just run my books and make sure it's done properly? I think that people still need a bit more education. I don't know what, maybe quick reaction.
Yes, but I think I tend to align with you to some extent. But you see, for lack of knowledge, I mean, my people perish. We have been at the forefront. I think Deloitte for the past few years have been at the forefront of tax advocacy, where I have personally given presentations on same. Even last year, a whole lot of presentation on basic tax compliance, so that people will have that knowledge. And I can tell you for a fact that the seemingly difficulty people talk about, I think that when you go to RGD now, they've tried to streamline things. If you come to the Revenue Authority, GRA, and an office, let's say a shadow officer is stressing you up, the typical Ghanaian way, walk to the office manager. Every office has a head. Walk to the office manager. It is the office manager's duty. They are service providers, and I have engaged them on numerous occasions. The GRA are our friends. I go there on a daily basis. We are working with them, and I have not seen any instance whereby this process has been difficult. Because for us as Deloitte, if you try to, waste my client's time, your head will be on the line. I'll just take you to the office manager. If the office manager is not forthcoming, we go the next level. I escalate it. But what will be the escalation level for an SME? Who would say, okay, I don't have the money to engage a consultant.
The tax, I don't want to pay. Then the officer is stressing me out.
Exactly.
Then I have to now work to some manager.
Exactly.
If I don't have somebody like you, who now becomes my lawyer, then I walk out of the office and you won't hear from me again.
That is why we are giving this knowledge. I think that's why this platform is very important, because you should know the power you have as a Ghanaian. Because when you get to the Revenue Authority, and I did indicate to you that possibly you may have met a service personnel who may not be much versatile.
When people walk into the tax offices, we don't, there was a point you made earlier off air about the fact that, it's the structure of our offices is the same as every other office. But when people walk into places like a police station, a tax office, we assume that they are all gods. So.
Yes,
we assume that they are all supermen. You know what I mean?
That's why
you go and meet some.
They are.
Some junior officers stressing you.
Exactly. We are oblivious.
We take their word as
exactly.
Bible.
We are oblivious of the power we have. if you walk in there, walk into any tax office and then ask that you want to talk to the office manager. I know it's a difficulty, but we need to also look. I remember when I started my tax career as an associate, and you go to the GRA and then they bully you. And I went to see my former boss. He's gone on retirement, Mr. Manasidu. You have to get the job done. Get it done. And that really, gave me that confidence.
I'm coming to pay my tax. Why do you want to bully me?
No,
you hold that thought for me.
Yeah, we'll come.
This is
come
Masterclass here on the Superstation.
Exactly.
We're talking about tax compliance for SMEs and generally being tax compliant. We want to take a quick message from our sponsors. When we come back, we get interactive. We take a quick message right now. Welcome back. If you just tuned in, this is Masterclass here on your Superstation Joy 99.7. Gilbert Yirenkyi Addo from Deloitte Ghana is here with us, talking to us about tax compliance for SMEs. Tax is one of those things that most of us don't want to talk about or hear about, but gradually we're becoming good people, we're becoming good business people, we're learning to do things right, and therefore it's important to learn things like this. Phone lines are now open, 0302-216-541. That's 0302-216-541. You can also send us your comments or questions on 055-11-11997. If you're driving, we definitely want you to arrive alive, so make sure you park off. Don't text while you drive, but pick up that phone. Let's hear your thoughts. What is your business practice where tax is concerned? Are you filing your taxes? Are you using a consultant? Are you doing it yourself? How are you doing it right? How can we all learn from your experience? Are you having difficulty? Have you walked into a tax office and they said something to you that made you walk out and never wanted to go back again? Pick up that phone. Gilbert is here today. He's going to share a lot of information with us on how we can do this properly so that we grow our nation together. 0302-216-541 or 055-11-11997. If you've got any motor vehicle of any kind, GOIL has some great news for us. GOIL is rewarding all of its prepaying Go customers with up to 2% discount on all fuel purchased. Elevate your goodness by joining the GOIL Go Club today and enjoy up to 3% litre discount on all fuel purchased. GOIL, good energy. GOIL, Yenara, Yedia. Masterclass today is also brought to us by GCB. GCB, your bank for life. Phone lines are now open. I think I have a caller on the line already. Good afternoon. You're welcome to Masterclass. Your name and where you're calling from.
Good afternoon. This is Foley. I'm calling from Fan Milk.
Oh, did you say Foley from Fan Milk?
Yes.
Right. Foley, talk to me. How are you?
I'm all right.
Are you bringing us some Fan Milk on the show today?
No. It's actually an area.
Talk to me.
This tax issue is something else. Because, first of all, the situation in this country looks like you are okay if you don't show up in the tax offices to declare that, I'm doing business, I'm trying to do business, I want to register for taxation.
That's what we're trying to change.
You walk in, everybody starts telling you, you owe this, you have been in business for this long, you owe this, and they calculate a whole list of stuff that you owe. They are not friendly. The tax offices are not friendly.
They are listening to you. They will change.
It's like they're out to get you. So this is one of the main experiences that a lot of people have friends who are in business in various sectors. Some have even decided to shut down business and because today they go, you owe this, tomorrow they go, they owe that, and nobody comes out to even guide you. Do this or do that or do that. And what are the benefits to the taxpayer, to the business person, to the SME? What are the benefits of paying tax? We don't know these things. Everybody just tells you have to pay. No, you owe this, you owe that. And by now we should integrate the system whereby you can be in when you file at RGD, you can go and file at RGD. It will reflect everywhere. But we don't have, our systems are not friendly, seriously. They are not friendly to business. So, and the tax consultant, is it Franklin?
Gilbert.
Gilbert. When you go, Gilbert, you are with Deloitte. It's a big company. When you go into the tax offices, you know what you're about. How many SMEs, how many market women know what they're about? No, don't push it. If you're giving us the information or the education, give us education. It's not just about lack of knowledge or people, but the system is not friendly for doing business. It's just that the tax offices are not friendly.
Right.
They are not. It's like they're just out to get you. Nobody even tells you, okay, do it this way or do that.
Yes.
They're just out to get you. And that is not only for my experience, but also for friends who are in business and that is that. Even sometimes there are certain businesses that do not require you to pay tax, like in the agricultural sector, but they will still insist that you need to pay tax, and that is what happens.
Yeah.
So that is a fact, and that's just my contribution to the show. Thank you very much.
I mean, Foley, I think that I hear your heart very strongly, but let me just add this quickly. You know, Gilbert, I will let you respond to this one because I've had a tax consultant here. Maybe we'll take you from this and do a lot more shows on tax, but it stems from a place of lack of information. There are many benefits and tax reliefs available. We don't know. Nobody is telling us. And we also don't know when to do the right thing. So when we go, we are already in the negative. And that's what makes it difficult for all of us. But trust me, Foley, I also didn't know. But with gradually talking to a few people, I have found out that there are benefits to be had, and the people there also need education, and it's a work in progress. So together, let us all put our shoulders to the wheel, and trust me, we will feel much better about this than we are feeling right now. But I hear your heart. I have another caller on the line. Good afternoon. You're welcome to Masterclass. Your name, where you're calling from?
Good afternoon. General Ishak Mahama is my name from Fadama.
Sorry, I didn't get your name. If you can just repeat your name for me.
General Ishak Mahama.
General Ishak Mahama. Good afternoon to you, General. How's Fadama this afternoon?
Oh, Fadama is cool. Just that I am not cool with GRA.
Please tell us dispassionately. Tell us what the issues are.
My wife and I registered a company. We went to the Nima branch of GRA just to register the VAT and the tax clearance certificate. Guess what, bro? We were told to pay 5,000 Ghana cedis. The first question I asked the lady was that, what am I paying this for? Mm-hmm. My understanding is, before I pay anything, I have to earn something. Hence the reason it is called income tax. Yeah. I have not earned anything. Mm-hmm. And GRA is asking me to pay 5,000 Ghana cedis. I remember 2 weeks ago, I put this to Kojo Jensen and within Amo to do a search for us. I've not heard from them. Thank God I tuned into, a descending program this afternoon, and I felt this time around, you do this search for Ghanaians. A lot of us are running out of business because of these things. Why should I ask to be paid 5,000 Ghana cedis? I'm not even talking about 1,000 Ghana cedis, 100 Ghana cedis, 200 Ghana cedis, and you're asking me to pay 5,000 Ghana cedis. For all you know, my capital is 5,000 Ghana cedis.
General Ishak, let me do this for you, and thank you that you're listening to Joy FM. I know Winston and Kojo are going to come back to you, but we will give you a number at the end of this show. It's a number to reach Gilbert and his team.
Okay.
They are consultants in tax. They will hold your hand through the process. And they'll act as lawyers for you so that you can get the relief. And this is not just for you, General. For anyone who's listening who feels like they've been unfairly treated, this is the point we're making, that we are all, the structure of tax offices is no different from the structure in many offices. And therefore, sometimes the person you speak to may not have all the information. That's the point I was making to him earlier, that when we walk into tax offices, we assume that everyone we talk to is God. And so they should have the information. But the reality is that some of them don't really know. So, General, we apologize on behalf of the people who gave you the bad experience. But we will give you a number that you can reach them on and you can get help. Okay? Thank you so much for calling the show.
You most
do I have another caller on the line? I do. Good afternoon. You're welcome to Masterclass. Your name and where you're calling from. Yes, good afternoon.
Hello.
Welcome to Masterclass.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Your name and where you're calling from, please.
I'm Fifi Dake.
Right. Fifi, where are you calling from this afternoon?
I'm calling from Abukobi.
Okay, talk to me.
Yes, so I have this bag I usually sell on the social media.
Fifi, I'm getting a bit of feedback
I've become concerned about my tax compliance.
Hello, Fifi.
So I'm trying. Can you hear me?
I'm getting a bit of feedback from your radio set. If you can either turn it off or move away from it, I'll be grateful.
Is it better now?
Yes, it's better. Please go ahead.
Okay, great. Okay, so I said I sell bags on social media, and I just got intrigued about this presentation we're doing. Okay, so recently I've become concerned about my tax issues in terms of compliance, and I'm trying to comply. But I have this friend who walked to the GRA and decided to comply, and things have become very, very complicated for him. The tax authorities are on his neck just because of trying to comply. So I'm now having second thoughts about it. And tuning into your program, I just want an advice as to what I'm supposed to do right now.
Okay. Fifi, please keep listening. When I put that number out, it will reach Gilbert and his team, who are consultants, and they'll be happy to help you and hold your hand through the process so that you can do the right thing. But thank you for wanting to do the right thing. You're a model Ghanaian, Fifi.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. I've got a few comments on social media. This one is from Efo Mauli from La Paz. He says, good afternoon, Mr. Yao. Let's say I earn 500 Ghana cedis in a month. How much should I pay as tax to the government? Please, can you teach us how it is calculated? This is Efo Mauli. Okay, Efo, Gilbert will try to see if he can answer that question. Let's take a few more comments on social media. I've got one from Mike in Kaswa. Mike says, please, I teach in a school that pays me 500 cedis and they deduct income tax. Are they right? This is Mike in Kaswa. Mike says he earns 500 cedis and they deduct income tax. Are they right to deduct income tax?
Yes. I mean, whatever you earn as an individual,
it's taxable.
As a corporate entity, it's taxable. You see, let's cast our mind back to the old adage of taxation. And like I did indicate to you, it's because sometimes there is that mismatch between development and the taxes that has been collected. So we tend to have some of these, sentiments. But whatever income that you earn, a portion must go to the state, and the state must use same to develop the country. So for income tax purposes, there's a cutoff. And for those who earn the minimum wage of 365, the tax rate thereon is 0%. It goes to what we call the graduated rate. And when you go to the GRA website, they have that calculator there that will help you to calculate some of these taxes. It's there on their website. You just have to have access to same. So for the 500 CD earner, you route it to the graduated rate. And when you we route it to the graduated rate, there are inherent tax benefits.
We'll talk about the benefits.
Great.
On another show.
So
I've got,
we'll look at that on another. Yes.
I've got a comment from Ajingo the man. Ajingo says, good afternoon, Masterclass. Great discussion. Please ask for me. In business, do we register to pay tax passed on the level or the size of the business, or no matter how small the business is, we should pay tax? Ajiman Joseph, Committee 9, aka Ajingo the man. Is it based on the volume of business or the size of the company?
It's not based on the volume or the size. That's why I put it in perspective. Now, when we come to indirect taxes, which is VAT, the point of registration is triggered based on what? Your turnover.
So volume of business.
Exactly, for VAT.
For VAT? For VAT.
Okay. So if your turnover within any 12-month period happens to be more than 200,000 Ghana cedis, or if you anticipate that within any 3 months period, within that 12 months, and please, I am placing emphasis on this, it's not tied to your financial year, any 12-month period. So if
it can be February to February, it can be March to March.
So once your turnover happens to be 200,000 and above, you are required to then register and account for VAT. But when it comes to the direct taxes, it's not premised on this. To the extent that you are an entity engaged in an activity in Ghana, you have to register. And this stems from what? The Companies Act. I mean, when you go to the RGD, there are different forms of companies. And that's where you start from. Once you're engaged in any activity, whether it's a sole proprietor, an enterprise, or a full-fledged company, you'd have to start the registration from that point.
You know what you can do for me next week? As part of your submission next week, maybe we should just touch briefly on the types of taxes.
Great.
And how they apply to who.
Exactly.
Okay. Do I have another caller on the line? Not yet. Okay, I've got a few more comments. This one is from Facebook. It says, it's from Yesh Emmanuel. Emmanuel says, tell Gilbert I have connected to him on LinkedIn.
Okay.
This one is from Joseph Osei Pumpuni.
Okay.
It says, very insightful and very detailed. And this one is from, is Kwabena your brother?
Kwabena
Yirenkyi Addo.
Yes, that's my senior brother.
Okay.
That's
he says,
my senior
excellent
brother.
delivery.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yeah.
This one is from Evans. Okay. All right. I don't see Evans' question. But the number is here. Do you want to put it out?
Yes, you can put it out.
So this is to Deloitte.
Yes, to Deloitte.
Okay. So please take it very slowly for me, because there are a few people, General Ishak,
yes,
and a few other people.
050 13
Okay.
0501320
Okay.
Great.
And this is a number with which they can reach the office at Deloitte. And they can hold your hand through the process. So that if you're struggling, with your taxes, you want to do the right thing and you're not getting the right information, they can hold your hand through. But if a lot of people listen to Masterclass, and I'm sure that the Commissioner General, my father, Amish Adai, is listening to you, and he will take all the concerns that you have. What's our takeout from the conversation today? If we remember nothing from today, what should we remember?
Great. So I'll hinge it on three things. The obligation to keep your documentation, and I've indicated that it is a requirement to the extent that you are a registered entity. You would have to maintain documentation, and it's because of what you have filed with the GRA, and they having to come to investigate to see whether what you have submitted to them is what it is. Now, necessary records or documentations are what? Invoices, receipts. These are basic things. Receipts, ledgers, journals. So as an SME, you have to get a solid accounting system in place. If you don't have even money, have a good Excel system in place that can track some of these things also for you. And you also have to have in mind the time period for filing. It's very important because if you renege on your payment requirement, you pay interest, and the interest is calculated on a compounded basis. So each month, the mathematicians can see each month it is principal plus interest compounded. So it goes on and on. That's why you may have a small tax exposure, let's say 1,000 cedis, but the liability, the interest thereon could be 5,000. And
because you waited so long.
You waited so long.
A lot of information there. I'm sure that next week, God willing, when we come back, we'll be able to share more. But thank you so much, Gilbert.
Thank you very much.
I think a lot of information has been shared.
Yes.
This has been Masterclass here on your superstation, Joy 99.7. God willing, next week, we come your way with another exciting edition. Until then, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.